Welcome to the Cabrera Lab Podcast.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you?
You caught me by surprise.
That's how it is sometimes. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
Yes.
So excited about this episode. As you may recall, we celebrated our anniversary recently.
We did.
And I was thinking, on our anniversary, about, people ask me all the time, how can we be together constantly?
Work together.
Like, how do we make it work? Don't we drive each other crazy? Blah, blah, blah.
Nope.
So I was thinking to myself, what would the sort of secrets of having a relationship between two systems thinkers look like?
Wow.
Right? Like, how does systems thinking transform some of the things we care about the most? Love, marriage, parenting, those kinds of things. So I sat and I thought for a moment, and I reduced it to 5 things.
Oh, you did?
The first thing, I think, transforms how we relate to one another, you and I, in a relationship and also with our children and just generally, is the concept of knowing that we're building mental models.
Yeah.
Right?
That's huge.
It's not mine is right or yours is right. It's that we're both building our own mental model.
Yep.
And there's a difference between them.
I think that's spot on. I mean, mental models are a huge insight, just knowing that we have them all the time and that they're operating all the time and they're influencing our behavior and the way we see things. I mean, they're not influencing the way we see things. They are the way we see things.
Right.
And that we don't see the whole picture. We don't see all of reality. So, and we see slices of reality a little bit different than the other person. So, having this thing called the mental model, which allows you to understand that and have words for it, I think makes it so that you can say, well, that's the way you're seeing things. That's your mental model. But this is the way I'm seeing things. This is my mental model. And they're models.
Yeah.
They're models of reality. They're not reality. It's not I'm right, you're wrong, or you're right, I'm wrong. It's we're looking at the same glass and describing it in different ways.
Right.
And probably the glass is a collection of both those ways and a couple other different perspective ways on the glass.
Yeah, and I think for me, because, you were already a systems thinker when I met you, and I had no idea what systems thinking was.
Yeah.
But I think one of the biggest moments for me personally, and also professionally, but I think I saw things in my life personally first, and then sort of was just getting that understanding of how I was thinking about things, which is becoming aware of my mental models. But the biggest thing then was, oh, okay, well, that means everybody else in this room, in this relationship, in this family is doing the same thing, but not necessarily building the same model.
Totally.
Right?
So if you have teenagers, you really get a crash course in that because they just see the world really different. Like they're highlighting different perspectives, and they're seeing the world from a different lens, and they're making different distinctions and grouping things differently than you are. And if you don't see that, then it becomes like a battle of wills rather than a collaboration of coherence, like, oh, okay, let's put these things together. Let's see if we can make a dish out of these ingredients that is coherent.
Yeah.
So I think it's hugely important. And I guess the other thing I would say is that's like, the first step is just recognizing mental models and how they're not the same as reality. We call that love reality loop. And then the next step is understanding the language of mental models.
Yes.
DSRP and the moves are essentially the language and the mechanics and the structure of how mental models are built. So if you have that language, then you can really get into depth about, oh, I see, you're making this relationship that I'm not really making.
Yeah.
I was on a call the other day. I said, you're making a relationship which I think is spurious, but you think it's real. Yeah. So let's figure out whether or not that relationship exists or not, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Between two things.
Yeah.
And being able to language that it allows you to really talk about in depth people's mental models and compare and contrast your mental model to theirs and figure out where you're kind of like going at opposite directions.
The only other thing I would say about this is if I think about times when we've had more substantive conversations where we're trying to sort of work things out, figure things out together.
What most people call arguments.
Well, we don't
really argue.
We kind of talk things.
Yeah, we talk things through.
But I would say
disagreements or something.
I would say like 8 or 9 out of 10 times, it's I'm making a distinction that you're not making, or you're making a relationship that I'm not making, or actually I'm more spurious relation. I make a lot of like like I start to see things as a big ball of relationships, and they're like, wait a minute, let's pull these apart.
Yeah.
So I will say, to me, reconciling differences in our thinking always comes down to checking, are we making the same distinction? Are we seeing the same relationships, right?
Are we looking from different perspectives? Are we grouping or not grouping things differently, which is systems?
Yeah, and it's just sort of intuitive.
It's so simple, but it's the whole ball of wax.
Yeah. Okay, here's
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was the first one. I think that's the first one.
It's the starting point that allows you, I think of it as like you kind of loosen up, and you're like, okay, I'm not so wed. When you adopt the concept of mental models, when you realize that mental models exist, you're not so wed to what you think.
You're more open-minded to what others are building.
Yeah, because you realize like, oh, this is just like my version of reality. It's not, it's important to me, but it could be wrong. It could be incomplete. It could be a lot of things.
Yeah.
There's room for improvement always.
And I think it creates open-mindedness.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing to say we should be open-minded. It's another thing to explain how. How do you become open-minded? Well,
that's a good point.
Adopting the concept that the reality that mental models exist is the first step in open-mindedness.
Yes, I 100%. And it changes everything.
It changes everything.
It changes everything. Okay, I'm going to read you the next one. Reality. It's hard when tough things come up, things that you want to be in denial about, whether it's with your spouse, your children, your job, your parents, anything. The first best step is to take an accurate assessment of the reality of the situation. Look at it face on with your partner and decide how you're going to handle it. Alternatively, if you don't really know the reality of a situation, take the time to find more evidence, get more feedback from reality, and work together to come to a shared understanding of a situation before you make big life decisions.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's something that we've embraced.
Yeah, I love reality, which includes the concept of mental models, I think that dates back to sort of my mountaineering days and like, just realizing that whether you like it or not, this is happening. Yes. And nobody's coming. And if you don't deal with it, it's going to get worse. And whatever pain you're in now is just going to multiply if you don't get tight with reality, if you don't love reality. And love reality doesn't mean like accept it the way it is. It means accept it as, okay, this is happening. This is real.
Yeah.
I'm in this situation.
Yeah.
And then be like, okay, what agency do I have in this situation? What influence? What can I do to alter the situation or change the situation or get out of the situation or whatever.
Yeah.
But in relationships, I think if you can have that conversation, which in many ways mimics the mental model conversation, because you sort of say, well, my mental model is that what's really going on is this, but you're seeing that that's not the case,
Yeah. I think of it also a little bit differently where, for me, when I say reality, I mean, how would I say it? Just a willingness to really seek out what the reality is, right? Yeah. Separate from, and think about our kids are 27, 25, and almost 18. Mm-hmm. How many times are we having conversations with them as they're going through their life and saying, sometimes things are going to happen and you're going to have to accept, like injuries in sports, for example, is a good example. Yep. And your season's going to be cut short. Yep. And there's all kinds of ways to react to that. But first you got to sort of embrace that reality and then make a plan, right? Because
life's what happens when you're making other plans. And, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off.
It's true.
So there's nothing wrong with kind of like what you're saying, like being curious, being really wanting to know what the real story is. Almost like you want to know what the real story is about some, social thing or whatever. You want to know what the real story is. Well, how many of us take that kind of like dogged attitude towards the real story of your life? A lot of us want to kind of push away reality, like, oh, maybe that situation happened because I was a jerk. Nobody wants to face that, but if you face that, then you go, oh, I can learn from this. Like, so the experience is valuable because the learning that you got out of the experience was valuable.
Yes.
But if you get involved in a situation and you don't learn, and let's say it goes negatively, and you don't learn from it, then, boy, that's costly.
Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yes.
Focus on the patterns, not just the instantiations.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you take that one. That one's a big one.
Well, a pattern is an instantiation that repeats. Instantiation just means it's a big word for instance,
right.
An instance of something. So if I just as an example, if I get in a car accident, that's an instance of car accident.
Right.
If I get in a car accident every week, well, that's a pattern.
Right.
Right. So, what typically, most reasonable people aren't going to get mad about or be upset about you making a mistake.
Yes.
Right. So, my mother used to say, no use crying over spilt milk or something like that. Right. So, but if you spill the milk at every meal.
Yeah.
That becomes a pattern, and you go, okay, well, there's something you can do about every single meal you sit down and spill the milk, right? So I think in most relationships, it's the patterns of behavior that get frustrating, not the instantiations. It's the patterns.
Yes.
And we sometimes conflate instances with patterns and sometimes conflate patterns with instances. And you want to make sure, first of all, that it is a pattern.
Yeah.
And be able to embrace reality around that pattern, and then just be like, oh, okay, how do you fix it? Like, how do you fix the table? It's not rocket science. It's just, a lot of times I think we take psychology or psychological social things and make them mysterious. Yeah. There's nothing mysterious about them.
Right.
It's just like, we don't sit there and scratch our heads when a table has a broken leg. Like, how do we fix it? You just go, okay, I can pretty much see how to fix it.
Yeah.
Well, the same is true with psychology. You just have to be honest, embrace reality, see the mental models about what is broken or what is the pattern, and then be like, okay, if somebody has a pattern of doing this, what might be the reasons, the web of causality that goes into that, and how do you train out of it?
Well, and also sometimes people aren't aware that they're in a pattern of behavior that's maybe not productive, not useful for them, or not useful for the relationship. And so when I think about it, I think about, well, we're like the pattern police, right, for each other. Like, am I in a pattern of dysfunction? Like, I talk about my to-do list and managing my time. Well, you have an ability to say, hey, you're falling back into that pattern where you're neglecting self-care and you're doing this and that. And because you're looking at my patterns, you're helping me break them.
Yeah, that's in some ways the beauty of being in an intimate relationship is that you get to know somebody, you get to know what their goals are at a deep level, what they really want, and then you see their behavior and you go, hey, this is out of sync with what you say you really want. So either change what you say you really want or change the behavior. And so we become almost, like you said, a lot of people aren't aware of their patterns.
No.
Well, being in an intimate relationship is a great place to have a partner to be like, hey, have you noticed, like, you're doing this thing again? Like, oh, okay, I didn't notice that.
No, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you're like, why am I feeling this way today?
The last to know.
Yeah. No,
so I think that's a big one.
Okay, number 4.
Wow, we're breezing through these.
I'm just going to read this to you. I can think it'd be easier. So remember at all times that your marriage, your family, your life is a system made up of many different parts that are interacting in a web of causality. Yeah. So when an issue comes up in any of those domains, don't start looking to blame a single person or factor. Instead, identify all of the parts and pieces of this web causality that are leading to this situation. Separate them out, discuss them, and figure out where you have your greatest points or opportunities for change inside of that system.
Yeah, that's a mouthful. Yeah, but it's true. The way I would say it is, don't be binary, or don't try to pigeonhole a cause for everything. We tend to be very binary in our society, right? And we say, well, this happened and I don't like this, so who's to blame or what's to blame? And then that who or what is a single thing, not a plural thing.
Yeah.
So just make the singular be plural first of all, and that alone will have a huge shift on you. It's just like there's a web of things that lead to anything happening. Mm-hmm. And being able to see that web, and they're not all equal. It could be, 10 things that each contribute 1/10 or 2/10 of the causality to what happens. The second thing, I think, is to understand, and this gets a little bit into understanding complexity, is understanding the agents.
Yeah.
Understanding who has agency and who doesn't, or what has agency and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. So there can be a lot of things that, if I trip over a log that's in the front entrance, what is the web of causality? Well, one is I'm clumsy or wasn't paying attention. There's that aspect. Two is there's a log in the wrong place, so that the log is at fault a little bit, but the log doesn't really have any agency. So then we look for agency of, well, how did the log get there? Oh, the dog dragged the log in, and maybe the dog needs more training or something like that, right? So, and I could just pay more attention, and I could be less clumsy, or not try to carry 12 things that are obscuring my view, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. So you're thinking about, this is an interaction effect.
Yeah.
Not, why is this log here, blah, 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 that type of thing. So agency is important, because agency means that you kind of have some control over. Mm-hmm. So some of the nodes in the web of causality will have agency, and some of the nodes won't.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So first you got to see the nodes.
Yeah. And
second, you got to sort of look for the agency. Not to blame the agency, by the way, but to understand what are the places where you can have some kind of influence over the effect, the thing that you don't like, the behavior you don't like, or the pattern that you don't like, or whatever it is that you don't like.
Well, and I think also when you want to change, so say, for example, this is just a random example. Say, for example, you have some dynamic across your in your family, some pattern of something that's and instead of looking at the tendency to say, oh, it's this person is doing this and that's causing, you're like, okay, well, what is causing this piece to that piece? That it's about changing at the agent level what people are doing for the system to change. It's not about a singular blame place. Or
my father always used to say he was Colombian, so he used to say it takes two to tango.
Yeah.
And that's a really profound statement if you think about it. Like you can't tango, it's not tango if you're just not with another person, right? So it's an interaction effect.
Yeah. And
pretty much everything is an interaction effect. So or you think about two ice skaters that are on ice, and one of them, their hands push the other one. And so you say, this guy pushed this guy. Mm-hmm. But really, what's really happening is both people are pushing, which is why when this guy pushes this guy, they'll both go backwards, because they're both pushing. Mm-hmm. So it's an interaction effect, whether you like it or not. To me, seeing that interaction effect completely changes human relationships.
Yes.
Because you realize it's impossible to put all the blame. I mean, there are very rare situations when all the blame is on one person.
Yeah, it's rare.
It's rare, but it
happens occasionally.
Again, in context, right? For example, if you take something egregious like a violent offense.
Yes.
Yes, but that again, it takes into account all the things we're saying. That person has agency. That offender has agency. Now, that agency has been influenced by a lot of things, by their genotype, their phenotype, all their experiences in life. And sure, we can go into that. But we also have people that were affected by all those things who haven't chosen that action.
Right.
Right? So it's to say we need to deal with the fact that this person's agency had a malfunction.
Yeah.
Right? And they chose to do this, and this is unacceptable.
Yes.
We also need to deal with this web of causality that keeps creating these people. But what we do in our political conversation today is we go, it's one or the other.
Right.
We either punish the guy, or we, look at the systemic, blah blah blahs.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, why can't it be both? Why don't we do both?
Yeah. I think that's a good way to think about it.
Like, and both. There's called the genius of and versus the tyranny of or, right? There's a saying. It's like, it doesn't have to be either or. It can be both and.
Yeah. And you can translate that into family conflict.
Everything.
I mean, if ever there was a case for the power of interaction dynamics, have your second kid, have your third kid.
Completely.
And then it's like and then add 3 or 4 dogs in the mix.
Yeah, it's like a 2-body problem, 3-body problem. Like, it's crazy.
There's
the dynamics become way more complex.
They take on a life of their own, really, in a lot of ways. All right, so last but not least, my 5th thing that I was thinking about is when you're here, I'm just going to read it. When you're struggling to understand each other, separate your thoughts and your feelings.
Yeah.
This has helped because you can simply slow down the conversation and help you from, if you're really stuck, you can even go and get a pen, a paper, draw it out, interact with the mental model that's causing the emotion.
Totally.
Right? The other thing that really helps, which I want to make sure is clear, is you don't want to push the emotion under the rug. You want to take the time to feel the emotion, and then you want to take the time to be more analytical or cognitive about the thoughts that preceded that emotion. And that's
I would say metacognitive about your emotion, right? Because a lot of people mistake emotional intelligence as being like, I experience all my emotions and all that kind of stuff. But really, emotional intelligence is about emotional regulation.
Yes.
It's about regulating your emotions. It's about not letting your emotions run rampant. Because, we could do a lot of stupid stuff if we just went with our emotions all the time, right?
Mostly stupid
stuff, right? Yeah. Or say stupid stuff, or, our knee-jerk first emotional response to things is often completely not wrong that we're experiencing it. This is the part where you have to be kind of nuanced about making distinctions. It's like, you're not wrong for being kind of or feeling a jerky thing, right? Mm-hmm. What you're wrong is just going straight to behavior, straight to action with that emotion, not regulating the emotion and putting a little bit of metacognitive awareness into it, which is thinking. Yeah. Where you go, wait a minute, do I really want to project my own stuff on another person? Do I really want to, I call it sliming. Like, do I really want to slime people with all my emotional baggage, that type of thing? And we're doing that all the time. We're doing that in the public space, in the social media. It's just total lack of emotional regulation.
Yeah, and also an awareness of the effect that we have on others when we project our emotions. Like, we should be responsible for our own emotional
for your own emotions
selves.
There's the agency part.
Right? Yeah. One of the things that has been good is, as we've evolved, you and I, we now have a language where I can say, oh, stop, let's wait, I'm feeling X, I'm feeling frustrated. Let me think about what has preceded that this frustration exists in this moment. And when we have moments of sadness, when we when you lose a family member, hard times, we kind of collectively allow ourselves just to feel all that we're feeling, and then we can deconstruct it, all of the other things that go around that, which I think is a healthy way to deal with it. Because so many times, especially with teenagers, they're like pincushions for a while.
Because they don't have emotional regulation.
Right.
And that's normal. That's a normal period in their life. And they're developing the emotional regulation, the emotional intelligence, but they don't have it. It can be a turbulent time for families, for parenting and for children. And if you don't do all these other things when it's turbulent, then it just gets even more turbulent.
Right. And they get
or worse, silent.
Yeah, so maybe I think if I were listening to this, I'd be saying, well, what do we do to help our kids become aware of this need to regulate themselves? Like, we have had 3 teenagers at what, how did we navigate them?
Well, I would say like everything we talk about on the podcast, this is not like, oh, we come in and talk about these things on the podcast. Like we live and breathe and eat this stuff. And so our children have been born and raised on these ideas. And, one, that's number 5, right? I would say we're missing one.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to add to the list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah?
Yeah. I would say we're missing one really important one. Not that we're missing it, but I would add one. And that is, you got to have some simple rules in your family, in your relationships. And one of the most important simple rules, which I think people will at first be like, oh, yeah, no duh. But then if you think about it, most people do not have this as a simple rule in relationships. It's thought of as like, oh, that would be too conflicting or mean, or it's actually more loving to back away from it. But it's absolute honesty.
Yes.
And that means even honesty that's, not really going to feel great or whatever. But the thing, honesty has this weird thing, which is when you're deeply honest with another person, you build trust.
Yes.
So even if that honesty might hurt their feelings, but okay, let's work on emotional regulation around those feelings, right? But even if it does, it also builds trust because that person starts to say, wait a minute, this is unique. Mm-hmm. This person and this level of honesty is unique in my world because most people are not honest on the daily basis. At work and all these different places, we're doing all these sort of like half-truths and no-truths. And so I think simple rules like honesty, and sometimes it's going to be hard to deliver and sometimes it's going to be hard, but it's like, hey, we're just dealing with this. This is the way I think. This is the way I feel, separating feelings and thinkings. I might be wrong, mental model, maybe reality is different, reality, like all the things you're talking about, but what do you think and what do you feel when I tell you that, Well,
yeah, and I think also the interesting about absolute honesty is when you are absolutely honest with another person, you don't have any other choice but to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, that hinges into the reality thing,
totally.
Right? So if you're absolutely honest, you're most of the time living in the reality of things as they exist. It's also very liberating because you do create that trust and it's a very safe space.
It's very safe. And people want to feel safe. You want to feel safe at home with your family. And that's how you create safe places for your kids.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, like being honest with yourself is loving reality and all those kinds of things. But it's really freeing to be able to be honest with yourself. But it's going to bring up a lot of your baggage, and everybody's got some baggage from something. I always think about the statement, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah.
And, what is hurt? Hurt is baggage that you haven't dealt with because you haven't been honest, because you haven't accepted reality, or because you're not aware of the right mental model that describes reality.
Or you didn't feel what you needed to feel.
Or you didn't feel what you needed to feel, and then you didn't regulate it, so you felt, So all of these things create a system, and if you can rid yourself of baggage, which honesty and feedback and pattern and all these things kind of help with, then you're not hurt anymore, and then you don't hurt people.
Yeah.
And that's how you can have an amazing relationship. Like, I never get sick of you. And we spend literally every day together, and we work together, we cook together, we do everything together. I wouldn't have it any other way. No. I think most people think that's maybe not possible, but it isn't if you're going to be even just like small dishonesties here and there. It makes us, we're human. We go, God, I can't even tell her that. So what? What? If I told her what bugs me, maybe she's going to be angry or something, or maybe she's going to...
Did you hear what I said? I wouldn't care.
Exactly. And that's part of honesty. Like, you know what? I don't really care about that one. I care about that and that and that, but I don't really care about that one. I'm not fixing that one.
I'm done.
Okay. And that's part of the honesty.
That's funny. Well, the other thing is, we are together a lot, and obviously we've built a family together. We've built a whole life and expertise and all of that. Yeah. The thing is, it's nice because I think the best way to be in a healthy relationship is to have two people that are both focused on working on themselves, but also working on the space in between them.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I'm constantly thinking about and trying to, there's, thinking about the things that I'd like to get better at for myself. You're always on a journey for yourself, but then there's this convergence.
I think that should be another one is just the what we call the RDS barbell of seeing there's you and there's me and we're not the same person. We have different visions and goals and all that. But then there's us, and that has to be worked on too, and that's a thing.
Yeah.
And if I bring my best me to that thing and you bring your best me to that thing, then that thing's just going to be, the probability of that thing going well. Yeah. That's what I mean by hurt people. If we're both hurt and we're both bringing our baggage, well, you're going to have all this codependency and your baggage is interacting with my baggage and, we're just spiraling. But if I'm handling my baggage and you're handling your baggage and I'm helping you and you're helping me, then when we show up to be it's all good.
Yeah. And we're present.
But it takes work. Mm-hmm. It takes work, but the payoff is the best thing there is. And that isn't just for this kind of relationship. It's a relationship with your kids. It's a relationship with, your whole family and your tight friends and stuff like that.
And then you have somebody by your side to face the reality of aging and the things that you have to face when we lose our parents. And there's a lot that's a lot easier to navigate as two rather than one.
For sure.
And so, year after year after year, that bond gets stronger, the trust gets bigger. It's
simple stuff, but you got to be almost OCD about keeping that stuff, these things we've talked about. You have to be almost so hyper focused on that thing is important. Mm-hmm. We're not going to violate that thing.
Yes.
It's a few principles, but we don't violate those.
Well, and I would say in the beginning, you're just kind of getting them into your consciousness, but then it's just sort of an intuitive. Yeah. It's like everything else, right?
I read a book once because one of my buddies I said, "Hey, what's the best book you've ever read?" And I can't even remember now. This was 40 years ago, but he said blah blah blah, and I said, "Oh, okay. I like this guy, so I'm gonna go read it." And the whole book was about relationships, and at the end, and I didn't understand the book. I was like, "This is a
because you were
book.
Too young, probably." Done.
No. Maybe it was 35 years ago. It was in my early 20s. So I'm relationships. I'm in conflictual relationships, right?
Yeah.
That are good when they're good and bad when they're bad.
Yeah.
And I read this whole book and I'm like, where is this going? It's about this guy and he's having these relationships and they're all terrible, and it just was this. It wasn't my kind of book.
Right.
But then I got to the last sentence of the last page. And it basically said in the last sentence, it was the punchline, all of the work that you had done to read the book and all the confusion that you had got resolved in the last sentence. Mm-hmm. And it was basically what this guy realized after having all these disastrous relationships was relationships aren't supposed to be hard.
Yes.
Right? They can be easy.
Yeah.
And I think if you realize that, then it puts a different light on the ones that you have that are hard. But it takes a while to learn that because you think, we're fighting. That's normal. Not really. You disagreeing, sure, but there's what is there to fight about?
Well, but the other thing is you shift the perspective. Disagreeing is we both just have different mental models.
We just have different mental models.
It's not that you're right and I'm wrong.
And it's not like we couldn't come to some new mental model that we share or whatever based on the two mental models.
Yeah.
So it's it doesn't have to be hard.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we think it has to be hard, but I don't think I think a good relationship where you bring your best self to the relationship, it doesn't have to be hard. I'm not saying that there's not challenging times or anything like that. I'm just saying, or that in life you don't deal with things that are challenging from the outside of the relationship. But I think this idea that relationships are hard is just, I found that with lots of other relationships.
Yes.
But once you find one that isn't, you're like, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's the is from the is not.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well,
I wish somebody had told me that earlier.
Yeah.
I wish I could have seen that earlier. But I did with my parents, but it took me a long time to learn that. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, I also think we sort of set ourselves up because we always got to work hard on your relationship, work. And the truth is, it's not about working hard on your relationship. It's like being conscious of the relationship, and that that relationship is, I always said, like a thing that needs to be tended to.
Yep.
Needs to be. Anything.
Like anything.
Any other thing. You have any other things to add? It wasn't meant to be just my list.
Well, I mean, as a systems thinker, I mean, I think there's a lot, so many influences, like the simple rules thing, that we have rules around eating times and what we do at the dinner table and at the breakfast table. And, I think those are critically important. They're very simple, but they're critically important. If you're not eating together, and by eating, I don't mean literally eating. I mean, sitting together on a daily basis, having some sit down, talking in an organic way. I think it would be very difficult to have a functional existence in this busy world that we live in with all the sports and the this and the kids going this way.
It's easy not to.
It's easy not to.
Yeah.
It's so easy not to.
It's
actually easier not to. Just like it's easier to eat unhealthy than it is to eat healthy.
Right.
It's easier to let these things go than it is to keep them in place. But there's not a lot of them, but there's some that are just inviolable, and that's like honesty, integrity, and family time.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that we don't violate.
No, and my favorite line that we've said forever to all of the kids at different points when they've done things is, it's worse to lie about the thing you did than the thing you did itself. Yeah, so let's just get to the chase. For sure.
And your simple rules don't have to be our simple rules. Mm-hmm. You decide what they are, but you do inevitably have to have some simple rules that are kind of like where you draw the line, and not on stupid stuff, on the really important stuff.
Yeah. I would say the one thing when people ask me, what's the one thing that I should do? I always say the very first thing is just recognize the mental models piece. Yeah. You're building a mental model.
That's the start.
They're building a mental model. Have the conversation about the mental model.
For sure.
Not about each other, but the mental models.
And even our business leaders, our CEOs tell us that all the time. They tell us that as soon as you inject that into the culture of an organization, you just start having different conversations. And then on top of that, when you get the language of DSRP and the moves to facilitate that conversation, to make that conversation a little more technical, a little more where we can get into the nitty gritty of how is your mental model different from mine, and have language to express it. It just changes the game between people. It changes the conversation. It's not about who's right anymore. It's not about egos. It's about, we got this thing, we got this thing, and they're different from each other.
Yeah.
Let's either subtract some things so they're the same, or let's figure out how to make them work together.
Yeah.
And the job becomes different rather than, we could either do this or we could do this. If we do this, Bob's right, and if we do this, Frank's right, and then, and then the next time Bob and Frank get together, Bob wants to be right because last time Frank was right, and, and you just get into this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Which is totally ineffective.
Yes.
But the mental model conversation is like, we got a job to do.
And that diffuses it, and it makes it productive.
All right. What do you think?
You know what I think.
That's a wrap.